side of the field. Mahomes takes the snap at his left knee, keeping the feet alive. Sings it late for the end zone. It's caught. Touchdown! Kansas City, and Travis Kelce with the catch now ties Priest Holmes for the most touchdowns in Kansas City Chiefs history. A 10-yard strike, and the Chiefs have that coveted second half two-possession lead.
Great call there by Mitch Holtis. How many times have we heard him calling a Travis Kelce touchdown on NFL Daily and around the NFL back in the day? Well, probably not 83 times, but yes, he has now tied the all-time record in the storied history of the Kansas City Chiefs. That was a highlight from a great second half of football by the Chiefs. They win 28-7 against the Washington Commanders, and the Chiefs are looking like one of the best teams in the league. Commanders are looking like a team without great future. It's a big night in sports, Shooky, so we got to stay focused here, and we appreciate everyone watching us live on YouTube. We're going to get to some trade talk a little bit later, hitting the 5 most interesting trade targets with the deadline coming up. But first, we got to give Travis Kelce, Kansas City Chiefs, and this offense their flowers for that 3-touchdown performance in the second half on Monday night.
Yeah, and I feel like I'm going to sound like a bit of a broken record because every time we do a Chiefs game on here, it's just like, yeah, their offense is awesome. Like, the Chiefs are for real. They're one of the best teams in the NFL. We can all stop pretending like they're not. And this is another example of that. And the beauty of it, I think, for Chiefs fans who are looking for something additional to get excited about is the fact that they overcame a slow first half. They overcame a Washington defense that suddenly played blanket coverage, which is not usually what they do, and then rolled to victory, cruised to a win. It was so out of hand. It was so decided that I had time to get 4 of my 5 points done already for what we learned. That's a win for me.
Yeah, that's a little peek behind the curtain. Shook is writing normally on Monday nights, but he loves our audience so much. He puts that on hold and finishes it after we're done. And it did feel inevitable at that point when Travis Kelce scored the touchdown. But you mentioned it, the first half of this game, they pick off Patrick Mahomes twice in the first quarter, I believe. One off of a fantastic play by Marshawn Lattimore. You're thinking, okay, that's the type of play you're going to need to beat the Chiefs. And once off a little bit of luck, off a drop by Travis Kelce, but that was really the last mistake Kelce would make. He ends up catching 6 balls for over 90 yards tonight and had, for the second time in 2 games since Worthy and Rashee Rice are on the field, just a play where the defense completely forgets about Travis Kelce and he's just walking down the field. And I was thinking late third quarter, as this turned into a blowout, that Marcus Mariota played well in this game, that they stopped Patrick Mahomes and got 2 interceptions off him in the first half, and yet they still got blown out, and that just shows what a difference these 2 teams were. What do you think the biggest difference was between the Commanders and the Chiefs tonight?
I mean, not capitalizing on the turnovers that you forced early in the game is a big part. Not having a kicker that you could trust well enough when you're in field goal range to go out there and try and hit a relatively long field goal to get you 3 or 6 points, which would have made it more interesting, which would have probably given you either a 1-point deficit or a halftime lead. That's one of the big things, but you can't blame it on the fact that you don't have your regular kicker available because he's hurt. What you can blame it on, well, actually, you can blame a lot of it on injuries if you think about it. They don't have Jaden Daniels, return to Marcus Mariota, a plus backup in this league. Like you said, played well in this game. The stat line lies to you because 2 picks were garbage time. He was largely competent in this game and also threw the craziest moon ball I've ever seen from a play that's originated at the 11-yard line, the plus 11-yard line ever. Ball on his touchdown pass to Terry McLaurin hung in the air for 2.4 seconds. Okay. From a play that started at the 11, the ball was in the air for almost 2.5 seconds. That's insane. He tried his best. Their defense came out and brought the fight to the Chiefs. But ultimately, over 4 quarters, unless you capitalize early, they are going to overwhelm you because they are one of the best teams in the NFL, and they are inevitable.
They're pretty complete right now. And since you brought it up, and we're going to get to kind of the huge mismatch, I thought, between the Chiefs offensive line and a ragged looking Washington defense, that to me, I think that's going to be the death knell for their season. They have no pass rush. But since you mentioned the Mariota throw, it was nice having Scary Terry back. He had a number of impressive plays tonight. Let's hear that touchdown call.
They might need to look at this. They don't. Here's a snap to Mariota. He steps back. He throws up. He's got it open. McLaurin in the end zone. Can he keep his feet in? What's the call?
After reviewing the play, it is a touchdown.
Let's go.
Trick or treat. Scary Terry arrives.
It is so good having Bram Weinstein back on the show, and that was London Fletcher, and a great job by our producer Chris Babona tying that all together, because yes, it was not called a touchdown initially. Upon review, they made it happen, and Terry had an outrageous catch on the sideline later in the game. If you're looking for some positives, he ends up with 3 catches for 54 yards and a touchdown in this game, and their offense is just going to be better with him. So you mentioned interesting like timing of how long that ball was in the air, and yeah, Mariota put too much air under that in a game where he was almost flawless through 3 quarters, and it still didn't really matter. That made it a little too hard on his receiver. Also flawless was Mahomes after that first quarter, but like they made it easy for him. He had 3 touchdowns tonight, Shook, where he held the ball over 4 seconds. That's the first time that has happened in Mahomes' career, according to Next Gen Stats. And if you give Patrick Mahomes that much time, you're just dead.
Yeah, it speaks to what you said, which is that the Commanders have no pass rush. And it was very visible pretty much all night for him. But it also, I think, kind of underscores the annoying part of their offense for most defenses, which is that just when you think you have everything covered, somebody slips out of the backfield or Travis Kelce just slips out into open field and they complete a pass for a big gain. It happened twice. It happened on that Kelce completion that moved him into scoring range. And then it also happened on the touchdown pass to Kareem Hunt, where Mahomes drops. He looks, he pauses. Nobody's open. Like the first 3 options are not open. Oh, and there's Kareem Hunt leaking out of the backfield for a wide open touchdown. That is why they're so difficult to defend, and why Mahomes is the perfect quarterback for that, because lesser quarterbacks don't keep their eyes moving, aren't able to maybe break a pocket and improvise like he does. And it's what completes them. That and the return of Rashee Rice, who has made this offense just another level or 2 better. He is so dynamic. He's such an important weapon for this offense, and that's why people should be afraid of the Chiefs.
Let's listen to that touchdown to Kareem Hunt. And to me, that's the signature Patrick Mahomes play, which is, like you said, staying calm, but then ultimately putting a defender into an impossible run-pass conflict where if the defender did not go after Mahomes and stayed with Hunt, then Mahomes would have just run it in. Let's listen.
Chiefs are going for it. 4th and goal at the 2. 10:19 to go, third quarter, 7-7 tie. Hunt, the running back. Snap to Mahomes. Retreating. Moving to his right. Now pump faking. Throws it late. Wide open. Touchdown! Kansas City. Kareem Hunt has his 18th receiving touchdown. The Chiefs take the lead on the 2nd touchdown of the night for Kareem Hunt.
I mean, shout out to Mitch Holtis for just knowing off the top of his head, or I guess he's got a spotter there, maybe, but how could they be that fast that he has 18 receiving touchdowns? Incredible. And that was on 4th down, and it's one of the points I really wanted to make tonight. Andy Reid has found 4th down religion. And with this offense specifically, it just changes how dangerous they are, because Andy Reid has left so many points on the board in the history of Patrick Mahomes' career with the Chiefs, and he's no longer doing that. They went for a 4th down in their own end in the first quarter of this game. It was, I think, around the 42 or so, on their own side, and they went for it, and they picked it up easily with a run. That was the drive where Mahomes got picked off later, but it's giving them literally extra scoring opportunities, because for the rest of Andy Reid's career, until basically this year, maybe a little last year, he was kicking a field goal there, and it just makes them even better.
Yeah, he has embraced modern football, I think. Not that
finally
he was behind in any capacity except on 4th down decisions. And it scares me as somebody who would look at the Chiefs and being like, all right, so how do they get off the field here? Because they're already really difficult to get off the field on 3rd down. You get them to 4th down, you feel like you've won the Super Bowl against them sometimes. Now they're going for it on 4th down. Like that touchdown pass to Kareem Hunt, that's a 4th and goal situation in a tie game, and they don't even think twice about it early 3rd quarter because they trust all the options that they have. And it's what makes them, one of the most intimidating offenses in the league. And not only that, but also how they can do it. And I keep thinking about, all right, so what's the difference between this Chiefs team and last year? Why is their offense suddenly back to being a well-oiled machine like they were in the Tyreek Hill days? There's 2 parts to it. One is the offensive line. it is so much better than it was last year. We talked a lot about Josh Simmons taking that left tackle role, but it's not just him. They are protecting well. They are blocking for the run well. They have a number of skilled runners that can capitalize on that, whether it's Hunt, Pacheco, the rookie as well back there. And then it's also, like I said, Rashee Rice, because you have so many different options and so many people can leak out one way or the other that it's almost impossible to defend, because it makes you defend the entire field, because Mahomes is a scrambler as well. Man, I can't say enough good things about them. They're fun to watch, and they're going to be a tough out for anybody in this league.
That's what I was asking for coming into this season. Just make Patrick Mahomes fun again. The best quarterback I've ever seen enter the league, and it was a tough watch for a couple of years. You mentioned Josh Simmons. He's still out with a personal issue. Just reading between the lines, it doesn't sound like they're going to have their left tackle, their rookie, back for a while. Early in this game, Jacob Martin of the Commanders actually gave Jalen Moore, the left tackle of the Chiefs, the business a couple times, but it was really just a couple of plays. When I looked at the end of the first half, they had 4 QB hits in the first half, which is amazing. That was their only 4 pressures of the first half. And then when you get to the end of the game, they're at 22% pressure rate, which is very low, especially considering Patrick Mahomes was just holding the ball forever. Like, his average time to throw was, as long as this recap is going to be. It just felt like that. He had all day to throw, and he still wasn't getting pressured. They're trying to play zone, and they just don't have answers. And, we appreciate everyone in the chat, right now. Well, I admit it. We got the World Series on, and Babona's getting on me because if you watch on YouTube, like, I might have some wandering eyes, but we're pros over here, and we can focus on multiple things at once, just like, Patrick Mahomes did. But I just don't know where this Commanders team is going. And we have a comment from one of the Commanders fans who said, "I'm officially done with football for 2025. Just cancel the whole Commanders season at this point." It's like, I get being a fan is tough. And you look at the schedule, they're home for the Seahawks and the Lions the next 2 weeks. They are going to have to pull off an upset, and they can do it. But they're going to have to pull off an upset in one of those 2 games, Shook, or they're 3-7. And it just feels like, I don't think you should cancel the season. I think there's a lot to be gained by watching Jaden Daniels play football. There are positive things here, but I do think this pass rush in particular and like the rest of the lack of team speed is going to kind of kill this team in the long run.
How do you stop Sam Darnold? You get after him. How do you stop Jared Goff? You get him off the spot. They're not going to generate that in either of those games. Not to give you a complete, like, woe is me, the sky is falling outlook for the Commanders, but the challenges are going to be great. And also, I'm not a doctor, but Jaden Daniels has a hamstring injury. I don't think he's going to come back from that very quickly. And if he does, it's a risk, as we all know, with the history of hamstring injuries. So it's going to be difficult for this team to battle through the toughest portion of their schedule, which started tonight and continues for the next 2 weeks. And even though you get Miami in week 11, they also just went to Atlanta and dropped the bomb on the Falcons. You get a week in week 12, which is timely, but might be even too late for that. And then you come out and you play Denver. I mean, you'd have to really run the table down the back half of this schedule to be able to make the playoffs, which is a bummer because this was one of the most exciting stories in the NFL last year. Jaden Daniels, and the turnaround of the Commanders and everything else, but the signs were evident with this defense, their age, they're just kind of slow. Even when they fight hard in the first half tonight, they crumble under the weight of the pressure over 4 quarters. It's going to be a tough ride for them.
They lost Javon Kinlaw during this game to an injury, and he's been okay, not worth the money that they gave him, but one of their better defensive linemen, certainly. Deron Payne has been the best one, along with Dorrance Armstrong, who's now out for the year. So it's just adding injury to insult. Laramie Tunsil, their great left tackle, also left this game, was in and out during the first half. He has a hamstring injury. He did not return for the second half, so they had their second-year player, Brandon Coleman, at left tackle. Before we just move on totally from this game, and like I said, we're going to talk quickly on some trade candidates before we get out of here and just previewing the trade deadline that's coming up in a couple of weeks. I just made a list of things and ways they let Marcus Mariota down tonight. You ready for it? That'll be cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Number one, Laramie Tunsil got hurt. That's just bad luck. Laramie Tunsil got hurt. Jeremy Lane, I keep wanting to call him Jeremy Lane. Jalen Lane. Jeremy Lane was Seahawks' third receiver. Similar slot player, wasn't he?
Not to be confused with Jeremy Linn.
Yeah, cornerback back in the day. But Jalen Lane had a drop on third down that led to the very first punt of the entire game between either team. And that was midway through the third quarter. So when the Commanders were trying to match that fourth down touchdown by the Chiefs, he has a drop on a nice play by Mariota. The Commanders go for 4th and 6 early. He makes a really nice play. And look, Zach Ertz made a good play, but he ends up coming up 5 inches short, which I don't know if you were watching the broadcast, but there was like an unfortunate graphic where it just said, 5 inches short. And, the meme, they had it, they were having their fun with it. You're shaking.
They're going to run their head with that. Yeah. No, because it was a bad spot. That should have been.
Oh, you thought it was a bad spot. I also saw, the internet also did it where they replaced short with average, but that's just up to you. We're getting wild here. Nick at Night. You thought it was a bad spot, though.
Yeah, it was. It was a bad spot. And it was a rough night for the Stripes. I'm not going to lie. They missed a lot of calls. They had to go to review a lot of times. There were some things where you're like, what, did you just not look at it when it happened? That was one of them.
Okay, more letdowns for Mariota. Deebo Samuel, and I think this was one of the biggest plays in the game, lets a pass go right through his hands, then off his helmet for an interception on the first drive of the game in the red zone, and they were humming. That was the best the running game looked all night. They had a great opening script. Mariota was running a lot, and that is officially the most embarrassing way that you can drop a pass, is to drop a pass, have it go through your hands, off the helmet for an interception. So that hurt Mariota there as well. And then they had a 3rd and long late when they still had a little bit of a chance, down a couple scores on the 3rd and long. And the 2 blockers in front of them, it was Sam Cosmi and Josh Carnley, just let Mike Dana, the defensive end for the Chiefs, just go completely free and sack him on a 3rd and long. And you saw the frustration, Mariota just slamming the ball or slamming his hand on the ground afterwards. And I felt bad for him. I got a text before tonight from our friend Nick Wesseling, and he was remembering, what a big fan of Mariota Chris Wesseling was back in the day. Says he was going to be watching and rooting and showing how Mariota is better than Jameis Winston, that Chris was right all those years ago. And I got to say, Mariota's playing pretty well. He's playing better than Jameis Winston right now, even if he got unlucky tonight.
Yeah, you're right. And if I had to choose between the backups, I'm obviously taking Mariota. It's kind of depressing that the top 2 picks of that draft are now just veteran backups, but that is life in the NFL. It's also, this game tonight was played at the place where Mariota once made one of those heroic plays where he caught his own batted pass and scored a touchdown, which was cool, back in the day when he was with the Titans.
Very good point. Man, this Chiefs team, I know we've been talking them up, and it just seems obvious, but when I've had conversations with people like, friends of like my son's dads at school or my family earlier tonight, and I mentioned to them like, oh yeah, I think the Chiefs are the favorites. I think they're going to the Super Bowl. Like I think they're the number 1 favorite right now. And they're like, really? I thought, and my daughter was like, really? I thought this was the year they're supposed to be bad. They're 4-3. And I was like, no. It's not that way. But we'll find out for sure the next 3 weeks. At Buffalo, bye, at Denver, and then home for the Colts. So I love that it's not going to get easy. You're probably not going to run that table either, but that is as tough an AFC schedule. If you were going to pick the 4 prime contenders in the AFC, I actually think those would be my 4. Apologies to my New England Patriots. At this point, I would say Bills, Broncos, Colts. That's about as tough a slate as you could have.
Just when I start to lose faith in the schedule makers for the Monday night doubleheaders or the occasional clunker of a primetime game, they come back and they redeem themselves by giving me exactly what I thought as I was writing tonight. God, I would love to see the Chiefs play the Colts right now. We're going to get that soon enough. I'm excited for that one.
Can we flex that in? That is a 1 p.m. game on the East Coast, a 10 a.m. game. That'll at least get moved to later in the afternoon, but I want that as a night game. We should start doing the Monday night flexes. We got Arizona, Dallas next week. Don't really need that, but yeah, this team's just different with Rashee Rice, Worthy, and Kelsey on the field. Okay, let's wrap this show with a different sort of segment. We got the trade deadline coming up in a couple weeks, and Shook, I just thought it would be interesting to go through who you think are the most interesting, realistic candidates. We'll actually go back and forth. So we'll do about 5 or 6, depending on if I want to, jam one in. And why don't you get going? The most interesting trade candidates you think that are going to be available for the deadline?
I'm always the guy that lets the other driver go at the 4-way stop, but I'll take the lead here.
You're too nice. I mean,
I know.
Is that because you're big?
Yes.
Is that because you got the bodybuilder's body that you're just like, oh, I'll just be the nice guy to make up for it?
Yes. You got to balance the two out. You can be intimidating physically, but you got to be, a warm-hearted individual, right? Not such a warm-hearted scenario, although they did have a nice warm-hearted moment in Cincinnati on Sunday. We're going to the New York Jets because fresh off of his 18-carry, 133-yard, 2-touchdown performance, I think Breece Hall is going to remain in the trade conversations. Why? Because he is a pending free agent, and he is a player who burst onto the scene emphatically, but has not been consistent, his last performance notwithstanding, over the course of his first few seasons with the Jets. And it feels like they are a team that is, or at least was willing to go more to Braylon Allen, that Breece Hall would have less of a role in this offense. It just feels like if they're going to try to get some sort of capital back, he is an option for them to move, given that they probably don't want to pay him in the offseason. And fresh off of a performance like that, you could consider that the price might go up if he starts to do this consistently, which would make it a tougher, a more difficult decision, but they are 1-7. So it's not like they're really playing for this year. So I think he'd be a quality candidate. It's not often that you see teams really trying to upgrade their backfield at the deadline. It's more of like, we need a playmaking receiver, but I could see him being dangled out there for interested teams.
Hey, Howie Roseman gave up 2 picks for Tank Bigsby earlier this season. Granted, they were, late picks, but still.
Yeah, Tank had a nice day.
I think Breece Hall is a real offensive weapon that is absolutely attainable and could change a structure of a team's entire identity. Not that you're going to build the offense around him, but we're seeing the best offense in the league have 3, 4, 5 guys who can be explosive. And you're right. I was thinking watching their game today, what an offensive performance, first of all, but just thinking, oh wow, this could be the last Breece Hall game because they have a bye and the trade deadline will happen before their next bye. Here's the problem. You said teams don't normally trade for running backs, and that's true. There aren't that many logical teams out there as the Dodgers get a big time out at third base. We're announcing this live. When you listen to this tomorrow, it's not going to make any sense whatsoever, but why not get excited?
I have a candidate for a team that he could go to. Now, granted,
okay, I had one. Okay, go.
I'm gonna send him to the Chargers because they are gonna get Omarion Hampton back, but their current state of their backfield, as much as we love Kamani Vidal, they could use a guy like Breece Hall to really open up that running game a little bit more and give Herbert more time to throw.
Okay, I thought about that, and then I just kind of mentally crossed him off because I'm like, well, Hampton will be back.
But it's a rental.
And it's fire and ice. I know Hampton is an explosive player, but they're different kinds of explosive players. I don't see that one as much. The 2 I thought of was Washington, I actually think would have been the most logical, and I absolutely think the Commanders would be.
They'd have to be desperate enough to do that.
And still can be buyers potentially, but they might have to win next week. The problem is they're now 3-5, and if they're 3-6, it just seems a little insane for them to be buyers at the deadline. But they are the type of team that I think would do it, and I think they would have the need. As much as I've liked, Bill Krosky Merritt's work, they just need explosive playmakers on that offense, and I think Adam Peters would do it. The Broncos are the other team. The problem is, J.K. Dobbins is good. R.J. Harvey's a youngster and is good. Are you really going to give up a draft pick? And that raises the question, like, what pick does it have to be for the Jets to actually give it up? Because I'm not trading Breece Hall for a 4th-round pick. Like, what's the point? I don't know. Like, that would be a good outcome for the Jets, but really, what's the point? You're not going to do better. I actually would propose to the Jets, just keep Breece Hall and franchise tag him. Franchise tags are so low that, like, I'd rather have Breece Hall for $11 or $12 million next year. You have plenty of cap space and not have to worry about replacing him. You're not going to do better than that. But that's my opinion. I actually do think he is about as likely as any good player to get traded. So I agreed with you. I had him as my number 1 pick too.
Okay. It's your turn.
Okay. I'll go Reek Woolen just because it's just been out there so long and I've seen it written. I also heard about it myself separately, that it's just like teams know that he's potentially available. And so I just thought it'd be an interesting exercise. And it's weird because they're not like, they don't have huge names in their secondary, especially because they've had injuries like playing for him, like Josh Jobe is out there. But let's say they do trade him. Man, a lot of teams need cornerbacks. The Eagles love a big, fast, strong athlete, and I could see them doing that. Would Seattle trade in the conference? Yeah, I think they would if they didn't want Reid Woolen. And then you look at the Bills and the Ravens, I think are two other teams that would be open to adding a cornerback, especially the Bills, who are still playing Tre'Davious White. I know they got Maxwell Harrison back, but I think that would be a really interesting fit.
Yeah, I see no issues with this. I thought maybe the Colts might be a candidate to add a cornerback.
Yes,
like
that's a good call.
Yeah, I don't think that the need is as drastic as Buffalo, but I very much feel strongly that this could be a potential trade candidate for wherever he goes, because like after week 1, they were talking about Reid Woolen potentially getting benched because he, was on the wrong end of a couple of crucial plays in that loss to the 49ers in Seattle to open the season. And they've had a lot of like shuffling in their secondary. They've had to play games without Devin Witherspoon. They were excited to play Josh Jobe. He got more snaps after the first couple of weeks. It feels like Reid Woolen has fallen out of favor there. The match with the Eagles makes a lot of sense based on archetype, but I don't know if necessarily based on need. One more team I thought about that just kind of crossed my mind as we're talking about this, even though they had a fantastic performance from a bunch of no names, is the Detroit Lions, because they have been banged up in their secondary as well.
Yes, and I think they are a team. There's only a handful that are really fit the profile where they're going to be super aggressive, and I think they would make sense. I think the Colts make a lot of sense, actually, even more than the Bills and the Ravens. I did not think of them. The Bears are another team where they're just so thin at cornerback, but I don't think they would be trading for one right now. The interesting thing about Reid Woolen and potentially Breece Hall is it doesn't have to be a one-year thing. Like Reid Woolen's not at the end. You could always tag him. You could come up with a contract long-term. Breece Hall specifically, if, for instance, the Commanders wanted to trade for Breece Hall, they could look at it as like a 1.5 year deal where they're paying him very cheap money for this half of a year. They're franchise tagging him next year, and then you figure it out after that. All right, you go with your next pick. Or should we go to one of our commenters suggested Jacoby coming home to New England? What the heck? Was that one of yours?
Yeah, I'm going to weigh in on that. I don't think he comes home to New England, but I think he is a trade candidate because everything's going so poorly with the Raiders. I mean, they just added Tyler Lockett. Like, they're just grasping at straws here right now. And Jacoby wanted that contract before the season started. He didn't get it. He was essentially told no, and he was just like, okay, I'm going to play then. With the direction the Raiders are headed in, I could very much see them being sellers and Jacoby Myers being the first asset they tried to move. And where does he fit? Because like he's not a huge difference maker that would command the attention of the Buffalo Bills, for example. That's the first team I think of that could use a receiver. Yeah. But anybody who's needing a receiver and would like to add a veteran talent, they could upgrade with him. I just don't think there's a need for him in New England right now. Right.
I agree. Ultimately, I had a hard time finding a fit for Jacoby. Like he would make their team better, but
not if it's. I mean, unless
not
they just
by
give
enough.
Like a 3 pick for him.
Right. And I think they would just maybe the Raiders are signaling that they're ready to trade him by signing Tyler Lockett, which to me is indefensible type
Pete's
of move.
Getting the band back together, baby.
Just honestly, it makes me wonder about the direction of the Raiders. Tyler Lockett was borderline unplayable this year.
Yes.
And just what are you doing? Why are you doing it? Just why? I don't want Pete Carroll making the decisions either, personnel wise. No. I don't think that is his strength. Like, coach him up. The Steelers and the Seahawks were two teams I thought Jacoby Myers could help. That made sense to me. I think the Steelers could be looking for a receiver. Jacoby would be a strong 2 there as a wideout.
Yeah, he would.
And then Seattle, not as necessary. Kind of can't see it as obviously, but Torrey Horton is there as their, third wide receiver as a rookie. I think Jacoby is ultimately better than Cooper Kupp at this stage of his career. It's not a move I can imagine them making, but if he's taking those Torrey Horton snaps, that would help their team. All right, that's 3 guys.
I like that. I'll give you number 4.
Okay.
David Njoku. We've talked about him before. It just with the toxicity that surrounds the Browns after they lose every game or a game every week, almost every game. And maybe it's because I live in Cleveland and I just can't escape it. But like, oh my God, is it bad here when they lose games? Obviously, the narrative all across the country after Sunday's loss is Myles Garrett's trapped. He took the money and now he's losing. This is unfair to him and all that stuff. But I think about David Njoku. He's an expiring player. He's going to be a free agent after this year. His contract includes $24 million because of a void year, so it's dead money for next year. The Browns are not going to keep him because they have to continue reshuffling their cap and extending guys out further to account for the Watson deal, which thankfully, will expire after, I believe, next year. They drafted Harold Fannin. I know Kevin Stefanski likes to use a lot of 2 tight end sets. He does it a lot right now. It's not necessarily that you drafted Harold Fannin to replace David Njoku, but if you're going to be a seller, as they've been very often this season, he seems like the next guy on the list to move.
That's a great call. I think he's very likely. We tried to keep it likely guys on this list because I've seen Quinnen Williams thrown out there, and Rich Cimini of ESPN says it would only be for a huge offer. And it's like, okay, there are a lot of guys like that. And that would be interesting. Would a team give up a first plus for Quinnen Williams right now, for instance? Like, I guess it is possible, but it doesn't seem as realistic to me because the Jets would be insane to trade Quinnen Williams for anything less than that. Just what is the point? You want to be good in the next 2 or 3 years, and I think Quinnen Williams can still be that guy. But if you got a Godfather offer, sure, you would think about it. Njoku, on the other hand, like, he gone. I think it's happening. I'm glad you brought up the Garrett thing before we go.
Yeah, that don't get me started on that.
Okay. Everyone, and I see it on social, everyone that's like, this is what he signed up for. Hey, he can't complain. Hey, it's like when he signed that $40 million deal, this is what he said. It's like, okay, we all know that. He knows that. It doesn't mean he can't get frustrated while he's playing his ass off. Like, that's what any competitor would possibly do. Oh, hey, this is what he signed up for. It's like he knows it, but he's just out there competing and he's playing at an incredibly high level and he decided to sign up for it. And you haven't heard him make any complaints about like, I made a mistake or did anything like that. So just shut up. Just for some reason, the type of person that feels the need to point that out every time anything happens. Hey, it's like, hey, he deserves this. He's one of the greatest players ever, but he stinks because he signed like you would do anything different, first of all. And just shut up. It's a stupid point.
As a sporting audience and as a society, really a Western society, we always have to choose sides. We can't ever just live in the middle. We can't say both things are true. That yes, he did take the money. Yes, he is committed to the contract. But yes, he's also has a right to feel frustrated and trapped. Just let the guy live. Let him be mad. The Monday morning quarterbacking is on steroids, especially when it comes to local media. And it just for me, I'm like, I know you got to fill your show. I get it, but you don't need to be so hot with your takes. Just let it.
I'm not even talking local media, so I'm glad that it's true all over the place. I'm like reading tweets from people I respect sometimes. National media, it's just stupid.
Yeah,
it's like we get it, bro. Last one. I mean, we should do the most interesting one. I was listening to All PHLY today, the Eagles podcast.
Yes, I'm so glad we are so on the same page.
Right. I mean, everyone on that show asked the question, will A.J. Brown be on the team after the trade deadline? And these are people that know the team better than anyone. Bo Wolf, Vinny Curry, who was on the team, Friend up, and they're not sure. Like, they're just not sure. No one wants A.J. Brown to be traded. Obviously, that roots for the team, that's with the team. When push comes to shove, like if they have to guess, they guess that he'll stay. But it's like a real thing. And it really feels like if he stays on the team, it's going to be his last season there. And he's just making it clear, almost pushing them, almost daring them to trade him. And then they have, a great offensive performance without him. It's an open question, and it is fascinating that it feels like such an open question, even though they're obviously Super Bowl contenders.
The Eagles are unique in that they are victims of their own success and are the worst team in the NFL at managing the drama that comes with that success. I don't think we've seen a team with so much unnecessary controversy around them in this era of teams. I mean, the Patriots was like off-field stuff. I would have to go back to like the 90s Cowboys with the Jimmy Johnson stuff and going to Barry Switzer to think about drama off the field.
That
that's
was another
unnecessary.
level. To be fair to the Eagles, that was
You're
a
right.
whole
You're right.
nother
But
level.
but the AJ Brown thing, look, you're dealing with a receiver, and receivers tend to be divas, and I understand that you're not getting the numbers and the looks that you want, but it's every week with them, win or loss. They beat Minnesota in a hard-fought win. I felt was, not the most impressive win, but was important for them at that time. And his body language after he scored that first touchdown, it looks like he was exhausted by it himself. Like,
Oh, you don't even want to know what's going on. Don't even, if anyone wants to go down the rabbit hole, just check out what's been going on with the social media. And there's been some unliking and liking and deleting even further during this week. And then he was, let's say, I'm not going to say mysteriously on the injury report, but he did finish the week before and we didn't know he was hurt. And so
yeah,
I don't think it's that crazy to just be like, oh, that was interesting ahead of the bye that he didn't make that move. So I'm fascinated. I really have no idea who would go after him. It's like Pittsburgh can't go for another big time wide receiver. I think the Patriots would make a lot of sense in this scenario, but it's anyone's guess who would go after.
Oh, you know what? My magic scenario is he goes to the Bills. The Bills just give up like a Godfather offer to get him, just because they're like, we have to keep up with the Chiefs. Go get him.
That actually makes sense, and it would keep the T.O. and J. Brown comparisons absolutely perfect. Because if you remember when T.O. did everything in the driveway, that was after they made the Super Bowl, after he had that heroic performance in the Super Bowl. Now, they didn't win it back in the day, but kind of similar vibes coming off of a great season. All right, those are our 5 most interesting trade candidates, and we're going to wrap the show here with our favorite segment, and it's time for Who Delivered By, presented by Uber Eats. And yeah, I'll give it to Rashee Rice. Did he have a fumble today? Oh no, he had a touchdown that was overturned right on the goal line, but he does finish with 9 catches, 93 yards, and he did have a fumble and a beautiful touchdown. That was right. That was one of those moments where you thought, if the Commanders are going to win this game, Marshawn Lattimore needs to fall on that fumble and not try to pick it up. But man, I know Worthy and Kelsey matter a ton. I think the combination of everyone that's going to make them special. But if I had to pick a most valuable, I actually do think it's Rashee Rice. Why don't we listen to one more clip? Yes, it's Patrick Mahomes' last touchdown of the night.
Now Commanders, 2nd down and 8 for the Chiefs. Mahomes in the pocket, pump faking twice, throws it late, caught, left side Rice, angling, touchdown! Kansas City, an 18-yard touchdown pass. And Rashee Rice finds the end zone again.
That's it. Rashee Rice. Get ready, rest of the NFL. I know you don't want to hear it. Shooky, thank you for doing it well. And now I'll free you to go finish your article and finish watching this game of baseball. It's kind of like the Garrett thing. Why not have both? You can love football. You can love basketball. You can appreciate that it was the Celtics' first win. I mean, that's the biggest thing that happened tonight. And you can love baseball too.
You could be in Cleveland, but sneak a Dodgers hat in your background for those of you watching on YouTube. See that back there? Yeah.
I know. We've both, you lived in LA for a while. I've been here too long. Great night of sports. Great night for the Chiefs. We will be back on Tuesday. Excited about this show. We got something a little spooky planned for you, myself and Jordan Rodriguez. That'll be the next show in your feed. Appreciate everyone hanging out with us on this Monday night. We will see you next time.